Coming up on This Week in Agribusiness, dairy producers explore ways to give school kids more options at lunchtime. Hello everyone, thanks for joining us here for This Week in Agribusiness. There's a lot happening in the world of agriculture, and there's stuff happening in Congress. Next week, we're going to see Congress debating whether or not to give school kids more choices when it comes to dairy. Joining us now to discuss the issue is CLAUDIA LARSON. She's the Senior Director for Health Policy at the National Milk Producers Federation and the Senior Director for Government Relations at the organization. And CLAUDIA, tell me, what is the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act?
Well, thanks so much for having me on today and for discussing this really important legislation. The Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act is a bipartisan piece of legislation that's currently in the House being led by Congressman G.T. Thompson from Pennsylvania and Congresswoman Kim Schreier from Washington State. It expands the types of milk that schools can choose to serve to their students through the school nutrition programs. A little bit of background right now, students can access skim milk, 1% milk, plain and flavored, and of course our lactose-free varieties of that. And what this bill does is it actually expands those options so schools can choose different methods for improving their kids' nutrient intake.
And CLAUDIA, I understand a big part of that is getting the option of whole milk back on those lunch trays. What's the value of that for school students?
Sure. So right now, nationwide, we have a child nutrition problem where school-age kids and adolescents aren't taking in the nutrients that they need to grow and thrive. Milk, whether it be skim, 1% whole milk, lactose-free varieties of all of that, offers 13 essential nutrients that are absolutely vital for kids' health and development. And so by expanding the options that kids can choose to put into their bodies, flavorful options, popular options like 2% in whole milk, we're increasing access that students have to those vital nutrients that they need to be healthy.
CLAUDIA, I know my fridge has whole milk in it right there. It's my preferred form of milk. What's been the response in Congress when this piece of legislation comes up? Are they willing to give kids the choice of whole milk?
Yes, in general, there is broad, widespread bipartisan support for this. So for example, in the House measure has 134 co-sponsors serving in districts across 44 states in the United States. So we do know that there is broad bipartisan support for this bill. It passed earlier this year through the House Committee on Education and Workforce, which has jurisdiction over our child nutrition programs. It passed out of that committee with bipartisan support. So again, we're seeing a lot of broad bipartisan support for this in the House and then also in the Senate measure.
So let's talk about the roadmap to get this done. We've got the House vote next week. Then we need Senate co-sponsors. Is that where we stand today?
Yes. So next week, we are expecting this bill to come to the House floor, expecting it to pass again, because we have that broad bipartisan support. And then after that, right, the bill would need to pass in the Senate. So currently, there is a Senate version that's introduced, again, also broad bipartisan support there. And so we're really, really hopeful that if we get a really strong vote coming out of the House, it's going to help signal to the Senate that it would be great if they would pick up their measure and move it as well.
So let's talk a little bit about what we can do. If we've got audience members who are also whole milk drinkers and they want to see kids have those choices at school, how can we help encourage this process?
Sure. Absolutely. So yes, we are really hopeful to get a strong vote out of the House next week. So anything that people can do to reach out to their members of Congress and encourage them to vote in favor of this bill so we can signal to the Senate that they should move their version as well would be extremely, extremely helpful. So you can call your member of Congress, you can email your member of Congress, and if you want, you can always go to National Milk's website. We have a button there, or we call it our call to action button, where we have it set up with this campaign. So if you just go to nmpf.org, or if you just Google National Milk, we're the first thing that pops up. You can scroll towards the bottom of that main page, and it says take action here, and it says click here if you'd like to support increasing access to nutrients for our children. So there's that option there if you prefer. Or again, you can just call your House members, send them an email, and encourage them to vote yes for the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act.
Thank you so much, CLAUDIA. Let's make sure that America's kids have all the choices they need at lunch. We appreciate that from the National Milk Producers Federation.